Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us once again in our News West 9 kitchen. So excited because we have Wendi Lyle, and she's with the City of Midland Health Services Department.
Yes.
And I'm so glad you're here. And she's a registered nurse, so she knows what she's talking about, okay? So today we're talking about nutrition and pregnancy, and our boss is a couple months pregnant, so this is going to be really great for her. So let's talk about why nutrition is so important during pregnancy.
So nutrition is so important during pregnancy for two reasons. One, for the mom, she's growing an infant in there. So, she needs to be able to eat the healthy in order for her to grow a healthy baby. And then two, so it's important because the baby is developing and there's a lot of things that the baby needs. And so to grow healthy.
And so, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but I was always thinking that, oh, well, if you're pregnant, then you have to eat a lot because you're feeding, two people, right? But that's not exactly the case. Okay.
No.
So when it comes to vitamins, minerals, what are some things that women can take that would be good for them?
So a lot of times, if you are trying to conceive and you are, your doctor will start you on a prenatal vitamin, but also on a folate or folic acid supplement. That helps with fetal brain and spinal defects, such as spinal bifida, but it helps the brain and fetal tissues to grow and DNA synthesis and etc.
And so these are in the form of a supplement, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So can women take that on top of eating foods that already have folic acid in it?
Yes, absolutely. Because in our daily diets, we really don't get enough in our food that we eat in order to have a problem with taking the supplement on top of it.
Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about the different types of foods that are ideal and good for women. So what are some things that women can start eating?
So any healthy diet, honestly. So all of us should be eating a healthy diet, same as the pregnant woman. And so it's just the same as MyPlate.gov. You're going to eat about half of your plate's going to be proteins, which helps with fetal development, tissue, including the brain. It also helps mom because her breast tissue is kind of expanding so she can breastfeed, and then also for uterine, expanding the muscles, etc. And then, gives mom the energy that she needs. And some of those foods, of course, are like fish and liver, chicken, lean beef, lamb, pork, nuts, tofu, etc. And then, vegetables, but you want non-starchy vegetables. And that should be about, I think, 2/3 of your plate. And so leafy greens kind of help with potassium, and they help with vitamin A and also folic acid. You would get your folic acid from there. It helps with growth in cells of the fetus. And then fruits, of course, can play an important part too, but you kind of have to be careful with fruits because they do have a lot of carbohydrates in them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that should be about 1/3 of your plate, but it helps develop with tissue and build immune systems. Vitamin C helps with bone growth, etc. Whole grains should be about 1/4 of your plate, which helps with healthy nervous systems,
Gotcha.
circulatory system, builds bones, and immune systems. So any kind of ready to eat, it needs to be a whole grain if you can.
Yeah, and so I think of the MyPlate chart. We've talked about it a couple times on this show. So that's something that women can follow. Is there a designated MyPlate chart for pregnant women?
There is. If you'll go to
Interesting.
myplate.gov and kind of look, there will be one that says nutrition for pregnancy and breastfeeding, actually.
Okay, wonderful. So we talked about the good foods. Now let's talk about some of the bad foods
Some of the
that
bad
maybe
foods.
women should avoid. And I'm a little sad about this one, y'all, because I'm a big sushi lover. So for any moms out there who love sushi, probably not a good idea, right?
No.
Why?
So get it over with before you get pregnant, and then of course you can have it back afterwards. But the reason is there's bacteria in it. So that is the main reason. There's some salmonella sometimes you might get, some listeria, and because your immune systems kind of get down, so you might get sick before somebody else might, because you're growing a fetus, and so to grow a healthy baby, you want to kind of avoid that. You want to avoid large predatory fish, such as don't eat any shark.
Okay.
So don't go out and catch any shark. Don't catch any tilefish, or some albacore tuna. You kind of have to limit that because it's high in mercury. So you want to try and avoid that. And of course, foods that are fatty and carbohydrates. You can have a cupcake, but don't eat 5 cupcakes maybe. you know.
Okay, and so I'm going to ask you a little bit later on as we go on about cravings, because I know a lot of women who crave French fries when they're pregnant too, and those are really high in starch. So when should a woman's diet change during each semester? Does that matter?
No, she needs to increase to about 300 calories each day, because, you know, you're starting to grow that fetus and stuff, and typically that'll be your second and third trimester when you're going to start gaining more weight, etc. But if you don't have a healthy diet prior to starting, you know, getting pregnant, then it's not too late. You know, you can change your diet to grow a healthy baby, and that would be important.
Have you ever met women who maybe they struggled a little bit with trying to eat healthy during their pregnancy?
Well, yes, I have, including myself. Now it's been 26 years since I've been pregnant with twins, not to mention.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, every woman might struggle with it because our hormones are changing, and a lot of times what do we want to do? We want to eat a sweet because our hormones are changing. And so it's okay, you know, just you might change that cupcake for some fruit, you know, or, you know, you might change that cupcake, say, I'm going to go get some exercise. You know, take a little brisk walk, about 30 minutes a day is great. That will also help with labor. So it's important that you can find those little things to switch over so you can eat healthier.
That's interesting. Okay, so I didn't know that walking actually helps with labor. Why is that?
Your muscles. So you've built up your uterine muscles. It does help start labor a lot of times. And so that brisk walking, dancing, okay, so maybe talk to your doctor first before you decide to go out and go salsa dancing or something. Because if you've never exercised prior to being pregnant, you kind of have to be careful as to how much you're going to expend. And also age plays a factor into that, as into what exercises you do. So, I mean, you know, nice dancing, slow dancing, two-stepping, stuff like that.
But
here in
don't pop
Texas.
any big moves in the club.
Yeah. Don't be doing any swing or anything like that. And swimming, of course, is great because it helps give you buoyancy. So as you get bigger and bigger, you know, you can swim, and it helps.
Yeah, and so like she was saying, that it really just depends on the person. So, I mean, I know a lot of women who are getting pregnant in their like mid-30s, so it's always just a great idea to consult with your doctor.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about coffee. Caffeine, I mean, we all love it.
Yep.
Can a woman drink it when they're pregnant?
Yes, so a woman can have caffeine, but they want you to limit it to about 200 milligrams a day. So it would be important to watch to see what you drink and pay attention to serving size, because I drink 12 ounces of coffee twice a day. So that my caffeine would be a little higher, and two, I drink a different kind of roast, and then so the caffeine's just a tad bit higher in that too. Pay attention to your labels and stuff. So you can have caffeine, but caffeine builds up in your system, gets into the bloodstream, which then passes on to the baby. And it's a stimulant. Why do we drink it? To stay awake, to keep moving through our day. And so it does stimulate the baby, and you don't want the baby to be overstimulated. It makes their metabolism higher. You're trying to grow a healthy baby.
Okay. So what about drinking like types of dairy? So I know you were saying that it can't be pasteurized?
It can't be unpasteurized.
Or unpasteurized, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pasteurized milk has actually been cleaned, and the bacteria and stuff has been taken out of it. So unpasteurized milk is if you've just gone out and just milked a cow and decided to drink it on the spot. Or a lot of times it is sold. Unpasteurized cheese is a lot of times made with that unpasteurized milk. And so that also can harbor some bacteria and stuff. And like I said, pregnant women's immune system is down just a little bit because you're growing an infant.
Right.
And so you could get sick with it, yes.
Okay. So I feel like I'm getting the moral of the story. Be sure to read labels.
Exactly.
Maybe start practicing now and get into the swing of it. Okay, so let's go to back to the topic of prenatal vitamins. So how do they benefit women, and can they still take it on top of the supplements that we mentioned earlier?
So even in a healthy diet, we may not get all our vitamins and minerals in through our foods. And so it helps promote fetal development. You're growing a whole human person in there. And so you want to give it a healthy chance. And a lot of times these vitamins on top of healthy eating will help promote a good, healthy baby. So ideally, you should start prenatal vitamins as soon as you conceive, or sometimes a little before you conceive even. And so your doctor may talk to you about that. But if you conceived and didn't really realize it, and let's say it's 2 months along the road, go ahead, start your vitamins. I would talk to your physician first about supplements, because folic acid is very important also in fetal development.
Okay.
And it prevents some brain defects and spinal cord defects like spina bifida. And so taking extra folic acid will help promote these healthy tissues and prevent some defects from, but talk to your physician first to see how much.
So can women take more prenatal vitamins when it comes to deficiency or?
No.
No, okay.
No, so a lot of people don't realize that you can have vitamin overdose. Unfortunately, because a lot of it doesn't clear out and kind of builds up, it would be difficult, but it can cause a lot of discomfort, bloating, maybe some indigestion, etc. And so it's important not to take extra vitamins or anything like that without talking to your physician first, because he may be able to change it, or he may tell you, hey, here's another supplement you might need to take. So of course it's very important to talk to your providers.
Okay, sounds good. So I had a lot of friends who have these weird pregnancy cravings, or just really craving a lot of things in general. Why does that happen?
So nobody really knows, honestly. A lot of times they thought it was something maybe the baby needed, or mom had a deficiency or something. The only one with that one would be like iron deficiency. Sometimes moms will crave strange things, really, really not healthy things, like such as ice or dirt. Sometimes it's called pica, where they crave certain things that's just not healthy for them, and it can harm them. And so that can lead, that can be a sign of an anemia and stuff. But they really don't know why we do it. It could be a comfort thing. A lot of times they think it's due to the hormonal shift.
I see. What kind of advice would you give to women out there who, let's say they're trying to maintain a healthy pregnancy, but they're just struggling because they have all these cravings that are just building up over time?
So I would just tell them just to be mindful.
Okay.
And maybe, they can still have some of their cravings as part of their diet. Just find other ways, such as, French fries. Maybe switch it out with sweet potato fries that are baked in the oven.
Okay.
Or, you can do French fries in the oven. Now, I'm going to tell you they're not as good, because I craved French fries when I was pregnant, but and that was a long time ago. But you can change ways to do some of those cravings. A lot of women crave pickles, and that's okay. Watch the salt content in that, though. Pickles and peanut butter. Okay, those aren't bad. So it's when we start craving the sugar parts of it that's really kind of bad. And that can also be a sign of gestational diabetes. So it's something you should talk with your provider about. But it's okay to have those cravings sometimes. It's just our hormones shifting. And, it just, healthy diet and exercise.
Yes. And so for anyone who's dealing with motion sickness or morning sickness, what kind of advice would you give to them too? I mean, do they have a loss of appetite because of the morning sickness? Does that happen too?
Yes, they do. A lot of times morning sickness is in that first trimester as our hormones are changing. And so the hormonal shift can sometimes cause you to lose an appetite. Your sense of smell might get a little stronger. Your sense of taste might get a little stronger. So more pungent tasting or smelling foods might really kind of be like, okay, I don't want to eat that, and now I'm not hungry. But it's very important to eat. No, don't skip breakfast. You really need to eat breakfast. That helps with that morning sickness. And it could be bland toast. It could be dry crackers. I know I kept dry crackers by my bedside. So that was the first thing I ate when I got up, and it did help with my morning sickness. Now, some people will have morning sickness all the way through their pregnancy.
Oh my gosh.
And it can get pretty bad. So it's still important to maintain that healthy diet and not to skip meals. They need to eat small meals. And try to stay away from the foods that might make you nauseous. So, if Mexican food makes you nauseous, then, stay away from Mexican food. Maybe not go to the Mexican food restaurant. I hate to say it because I craved Mexican food. So, just try to stay away from some of those, but don't skip meals. You still need to eat. Just make them smaller, make them healthy choices. Don't go more than 3 or 4 hours without, you can snack, make a healthy snack.
Okay.
And then, of course, prenatal vitamins and minerals can be so strong, it can upset your stomach, and especially if you're sick in the mornings and you don't want to eat breakfast, even though we recommend it. so you might switch that, take it at night, because you'll sleep through some of that and it won't be so bad.
I think it was interesting that you brought up how your senses are just kind of
Heightened.
intensified.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting though, because that's how my friend found out she was pregnant, because she threw up when because I had chicken, and she said, that's disgusting, and she threw up. And then I said, I think you're pregnant. And it turns out she totally was pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Well, I really learned a lot. So thank you so much.
I'm
But
glad.
so is there anything that the city is doing as far as the health services department, as far as programs that could help women who are expecting?
So we do pregnancy testing. We do urine and blood both. And then we kind of get them in touch. If they have insurance, we tell them to look, go to their OBGYN if they have one.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they don't, we refer them to places where they can get Medicaid or CHIPs to see a physician then. And then we recommend immunizations, of course. The tetanus, Tdap is what we call it, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis is very important. And so mom will get it with every pregnancy at about 27 weeks on.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because that immune system part is shared with the infant for the first 6 months of their life. So we're able to get more vaccine into them at 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months to help protect against pertussis. And so that's why mom gets it. But everybody in the family, dad, grandmas, grandpas, they all need to get at least one Tdap and make sure it has that pertussis containing part in it, so that they don't bring pertussis to the infant. It's detrimental for an infant.
Mm-hmm. Wow, okay.
And we offer vaccines for infants also. So 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, and then at 15 months, and then at 4 years old on up. And so we offer that.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and then we do STI testing also.
Okay.
So it is state law for some of those STI tests to be done at their first prenatal visit, and then once again at the hospital. But we do that also just to give them a peace of mind.
Okay. Is that also included with their insurance as well?
If they have insurance, it's just $10
Okay.
at the health department. So we don't charge insurance for that.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, it's so difficult to maneuver around. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure everybody's, good. For the STI testing, of course, we don't want things to happen.
Right.
Congenital syphilis is a very important thing, and it is high in the state of Texas right now. So we are trying to combat that, and so that's very important that we know and get them treated prior to delivery, so that the baby's not infected with it. And then the vaccines, we do a whole wide range. So we do insurance, we do private pay where you just want to pay for them. We also have what's called TVFC, Texas Vaccines for Children's program. So if they have Medicaid or CHIPS or no insurance at all, I will give them low-cost vaccines. Also for adults who have absolutely no insurance, we give them low-cost vaccines also under the ASN program.
So do they have to apply for something in order to see that they'll qualify for it?
They just have to fill out a form. That's all it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
And then we get the pregnant ladies, once they get their pregnancy test and it's positive, we get them in touch with, typically it's Midland Community Health Services with their women's services over there, because they can help them apply for Medicaid or CHIPS.
Okay, wonderful. What's the best way to reach out to you guys if anyone out there is watching and they want to set up an appointment or a walk-in?
So we do appointments only now,
Okay.
so definitely call us.
Okay,
But we have a Facebook page.
great.
Yes.
Everyone's on Facebook. Perfect.
Exactly. So we do have our own Facebook page. Our education supervisor worked hard on that. So you can look on our Facebook page, and there's all our information there. You can go to the City of Midland's website, look under the health department. All our information is there also. You can email us. You can call us. Call definitely to make an appointment. We're on Google.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, there's all kinds of ways to get a hold of us.
Great. Well, Wendi, thank you so much. And for all those expecting moms out there, I sure hope that you learned a lot. I know I did. So I'll definitely take to heart a lot of what you said today. So this is all going to be posted on our News West 9 website. Also, it will be streaming on our app called 9 Plus. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys next time.